Hey warriors, here's the truth nobody wants to admit. This world doesn't reward kindness, it rewards cunning. It doesn't applaud pure hearts, it elevates those who understand the game. Machiavelli wasn't teaching people to be cruel. That's just the excuse of weak minds when the truth feels uncomfortable. What he really taught was far more lethal than cruelty. He taught awareness, he taught strategy, he taught how to stand upright in a room where everyone else is already scheming. Look around your life at work, in social circles. You'll notice something strange. The people who manipulate don't scream, they don't rage, they appear calm, reasonable, even polite, while quietly shifting the board in their favor. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Power isn't loud. Power comes from positioning, patience, and understanding how people behave when they think no one is paying attention. If someone acts dirty toward you, it's not because they are stronger, it's because they know patterns you were never taught. They read human behavior without relying on morality. They know expectations create openings. They know silence applies pressure. And most importantly, they know good people wait too long, hope too much, and assume fairness will protect them. This video isn't about becoming cruel. It's about seeing the game for what it is and learning to operate inside it without being exploited. By the end, you'll understand 10 Machiavellian principles that predate social media, office politics, and modern manipulation. These are not quotes, they're tools. Tools to stop reacting, stop explaining, and stop giving energy to those who don't deserve it. If you stay till the end, you won't feel louder, you'll feel sharper, calmer, and harder to move. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I see the game. Why manipulators target the good. Here's a truth most people don't want to face. The people who get taken advantage of the most are not weak. They are consistent, honest, and fair. They try to do the right thing every time. They believe that if they treat others with respect, the world will treat them the same way. They trust that fairness is universal. They trust that kindness is always returned, and that trust, that consistency, makes them easy to predict. Manipulators or dirty players don't attack randomly. They don't try to overpower you directly. What they do is smarter. They watch patterns. They notice who hesitates before answering. They notice who gives people the benefit of the doubt. They notice who rushes to explain themselves or tries too hard to please. These are not weaknesses, they are clues. Clues manipulators use to map your behavior. When you assume everyone will act like you, you hand over control. You let them decide the timing, the tone, and even the outcome of interactions. Most good people believe that being polite, patient, or restrained earns respect. Machiavelli noticed the opposite. If you show restraint without leverage, you become predictable, and predictability is exposure. Once manipulators understand your limits, what you will accept, or how long it takes before you push back, they can plan their next move. They escalate slowly. They test boundaries. They exploit your good nature without you even realizing it. This isn't about being cynical or cruel, it's about awareness. If you understand how manipulators watch for patterns, you can stop being predictable. You can pause, observe, and respond from a position of control instead of always reacting. You don't have to fight every battle, argue every point, or justify every decision. When you move with awareness, you take back power. You make it harder for people to manipulate you. Drop this in the comments as your affirmation, I move with awareness. Say it, feel it, and let it remind you that understanding the game is your real strength. The moment you see the patterns, you stop being prey. You start controlling the pace. You start becoming untouchable, not because you're mean, but because you are wise, aware, and in command of yourself. The art of strategic vulnerability. Here's something many people don't realize. Showing obvious strength can actually create resistance. When everyone sees exactly how capable or powerful you are, they adjust, they defend, they prepare, they close ranks. Your strength becomes something they feel they need to counter. Machiavelli taught a different approach, controlled weakness, or what we can call strategic vulnerability. This doesn't mean pretending to be weak or powerless. It means showing only what you choose to show. It means letting others feel safe while keeping your full capability hidden. When people think you might be less aware or less capable than you actually are, they let their guard down. They talk more. They reveal information they normally wouldn't. They over-explain, make mistakes, or act before thinking. Strategic vulnerability works because humans naturally underestimate what they don't fully understand. When you reveal just enough to seem approachable or non-threatening, you create a false sense of security. That false security opens doors. People reveal their intentions, habits, or weaknesses. They show you priorities they normally protect. And all of this happens without you needing to force anything. Another key part of this principle is patience. You don't need to respond to every small provocation. You don't need to demonstrate strength immediately. By waiting, observing, and selectively showing your abilities, you disrupt how others calculate their actions. They act prematurely, they misstep, and when they do, you gain insight, leverage, and control. Power is often quiet, not loud. It doesn't need to be displayed constantly. Those who understand controlled weakness know that appearing unpredictable and measured creates more influence than showing obvious force. Being strategic, subtle, and patient allows you to observe, gather information, and make others reveal themselves. This principle isn't about trickery, it's about awareness and timing. It's about controlling the flow of the room without being obvious. By being selective in what you show, you make others expose themselves while keeping your own intentions and full power safe. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I control what I reveal. Remember, the strongest people aren't always the loudest. They're the ones who let others make the first move while quietly holding all the leverage. Why explaining yourself is dangerous. Here's a truth that many good people don't realize. Every time you explain or justify your actions, you give away power. When you feel the need to clarify your intentions, defend your decisions, or prove your reasoning, you hand control over to others. What started as honesty becomes a tool that manipulators can twist, interpret, or use against you. Think about it this way. When you explain, you create structure, rules, boundaries, logic, and patterns. And manipulators are experts at reading patterns. They study your words, your tone, and your reasoning. They can find contradictions, loopholes, or emotional triggers and use them to manipulate you. Each explanation becomes a map that shows exactly how you think, what you value, and where you are vulnerable. Silence works differently. Silence preserves ambiguity. Silence preserves ambiguity. When you speak only when necessary, every word has weight and significance. People listen carefully because they know not everything will be revealed. You keep others guessing. They can't predict your reactions, your limits, or your strategy. Over-explaining is the fastest way to lose control. When you feel pressure to justify yourself, you enter someone else's frame. Instead of acting from your own position, you start reacting to theirs. The moment you justify, you stop leading and start defending. Manipulators recognize this immediately. They may provoke you subtly, question your choices, or challenge your intentions, not to understand, but to make you explain. Each response you give allows them to adjust their tactics, gain leverage, and map your behavior. The real power comes from saying less and observing more. Let others fill in the gaps with assumptions. They often reveal more about themselves than about you. Authority is quiet. It doesn't justify. It announces. It positions without explanation. By withholding unnecessary words, you maintain ambiguity, preserve leverage, and control how others perceive you. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I speak only when it matters. Remember, your silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. When you stop over-explaining, manipulators lose their map and you regain control. Dirty players don't attack, they position. Here's a secret that most people miss. Manipulators rarely attack directly. Open confrontation is too obvious, too risky, and too easy to resist. Instead, the most dangerous people work quietly. They position. They shape the environment around you so that whatever you do, it benefits them. Think about it. Instead of shouting, accusing, or challenging, they frame situations, suggest ideas subtly, or nudge you in certain directions. By the time you react, the outcome is already tilted in their favor. You might feel like you're making choices, but the reality is, the game was arranged before you even knew it. This strategy is powerful because it works without force. Observers see one person calm and composed, while the other appears impatient, reactive, or emotional. The manipulator controls perception without a single argument. They don't need to attack. They let your reactions do it for them. Every misstep, hesitation, or emotional display reinforces the position they've quietly built. Positioning also works through timing. They wait for the perfect moment when you're tired, distracted, or uncertain to introduce subtle changes. Every small adjustment is calculated. It's invisible to most, but to someone paying attention, the pattern becomes clear. Their goal isn't conflict, it's influence. They want you to act, but only in ways that reinforce their advantage. The counter to this is awareness and composure. Don't rush, don't react automatically. Observe the environment. Notice who is nudging, framing, or guiding without obvious force. By staying calm, you reduce their ability to manipulate. When you refuse to perform the expected role, the strategy fails. This principle isn't about being aggressive. It's about understanding the power of context. The strongest people don't attack blindly. They control the stage. They create pauses, they shift expectations, and they let others reveal themselves through their actions. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose position. Remember, you don't always have to fight. Sometimes, the quiet observer aware of the layout and the patterns wins without a single confrontation. Fairness is a trap. Here's something most people don't understand. Fairness feels safe because it makes us feel moral and in control. We like to think that if we treat everyone equally and follow the rules, life will balance itself out. But the truth is, fairness only works when everyone is playing by the same rules. The moment someone doesn't, fairness becomes a weakness, not a strength. Manipulators or dirty players know this very well. They watch who insists on fairness, who honors agreements, who waits for justice before acting. Then they exploit it. They break rules, bend expectations, or push boundaries while you hesitate, waiting for the right or fair response. By the time you react, they have already gained momentum. Your commitment to fairness becomes predictable, and predictability is vulnerability. Justice without enforcement is just decoration. Saying something is fair doesn't make it so. Rules don't create power, actions do. Real leverage comes from accuracy and effectiveness, not ideals. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Responding to reality as it is, not how it should be, preserves strength and influence. This doesn't mean becoming cruel or unfair. It means recognizing where fairness can hurt you and where it can't. It means being strategic about when to hold the line and when to adapt. When you stop trying to enforce fairness on those who will never honor it, clarity returns. You stop wasting energy. You stop giving manipulators the advantage. You stop being predictable. The key is understanding that fairness is a tool, not a law. It works when the environment supports it. It fails when others take liberties while you follow the rules. By acting with accuracy, matching your responses to reality rather than ideals, you regain control. You create boundaries that are meaningful and respected. You respond proportionally without hesitation or apology. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I respond with accuracy, not ideals. Remember, fairness is only powerful when enforced. Outside of that, it can trap you. Master the difference, and manipulators lose their advantage. The power of delayed response. Here's something most people overlook. Reacting too quickly can actually weaken you. In our minds, speed often feels like confidence, and patience can feel like hesitation. But the truth is the opposite. Instant reactions give away more than you realize. Every immediate reply, every quick decision reveals priorities, emotions, and what matters most to you. And manipulators, dirty players, notice this immediately. When you pause before responding, something powerful happens. You create uncertainty. You disrupt the other person's expectations and their carefully constructed script. They start questioning themselves. They wonder, did I misread? Did I push too far? What are they thinking? That uncertainty makes them nervous, cautious, and more likely to reveal information they wouldn't otherwise share. Delayed response is not avoidance, it is control. It is about timing your actions to maximize leverage. It's about letting others act first, exposing their intentions and priorities while you quietly observe. When you wait, you also protect yourself from emotional manipulation. Impulsive reactions are easy to predict and exploit. Patience forces the other side to operate in your environment, not theirs. Think of it this way: manipulators rely on urgency. They push for fast answers, immediate engagement, or emotional reactions because speed reduces your ability to choose deliberately. By slowing down, you take back control. You allow yourself to see the full picture before acting. You force others to show their hand first. You turn their momentum into information you can use. This principle is simple but powerful. The more measured your response, the stronger your position. Silence, timing, and observation are tools that shift advantage quietly but effectively. Those who rush reveal too much. Those who pause gain insight and control. Drop this affirmation in the comments: I control the pace. Remember, real power is often quiet. It is not in how fast you act, but in when and how deliberately you choose to act. By mastering timing, you make others reveal themselves, and you stay in charge without confrontation. Why? They target your identity. Here's a truth most people overlook: manipulators don't always attack what you do, they attack who you are. Your actions, decisions, and boundaries matter, of course, but the most effective way to gain control is to shake your certainty about yourself. Once your identity feels unstable, your confidence falters, and you become easier to influence. Dirty players know this well. They don't always confront you directly. Instead, they use subtle remarks, comparisons to others, or comments framed as advice or concern to make you question yourself. Are you really handling this well? You used to do this differently. These small, strategic nudges make you doubt your instincts, second-guess your choices, and hesitate to enforce boundaries. When your identity is clear and anchored internally, these tactics fail. You remain consistent under pressure. You know your values, your priorities, and your limits, and you act from that foundation. External attempts to destabilize you become obvious and easy to ignore. Intentional growth is strength. When you choose to evolve, you do so on your terms, in alignment with your values. But when change is imposed from outside, when doubt is planted by someone else, it creates weakness. You hesitate, you overthink, and you give manipulators the opening they need. This principle also explains why some good people overreact to minor critiques or subtle manipulations. They mistake external feedback for internal truth. They allow others to define their reality instead of trusting their own compass. Machiavelli understood that rulers and leaders fell not because of overt attacks, but because their sense of self fractured. The key takeaway: anchor yourself internally. Define your identity privately, not socially. Know who you are, what you stand for, and where you draw the line. When that internal foundation is strong, manipulators cannot pull you off balance. Their tactics become obvious. They no longer create confusion or hesitation. Drop this affirmation in the comments: my identity is anchored within me. Remember, stability of self is one of the most powerful defenses. When you trust your own compass, external pressure loses its power and manipulation becomes impossible. The underrated weapon: inconsistency. Here's a secret many people overlook: being predictable makes you easy to control. When your actions, reactions, and behavior are always the same, manipulators quickly map your patterns. They learn what you will tolerate, how you will respond, and where your limits are. Predictability invites exploitation. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. The strongest people are not always the loudest or most aggressive. They are often the most unpredictable. Controlled inconsistency is a subtle but powerful weapon. It doesn't mean acting chaotically or without purpose. It means varying your behavior intentionally, choosing when to engage, when to step back, when to respond quickly, and when to pause. It means refusing to give manipulators a fixed roadmap to follow. When you practice controlled inconsistency, you create friction. Others cannot anticipate your reactions, so they hesitate. They question their assumptions. They second-guess strategies that might have worked before. This uncertainty gives you leverage. It forces people to operate on your terms instead of theirs. Controlled inconsistency also preserves autonomy. By choosing selectively when to make yourself available, when to answer, and when to reveal information, you prevent others from taking advantage of your routines or habits. You decide the pace, the timing, and the access, and that alone increases your influence. Think about it. Manipulators thrive on patterns. They watch for habits, repeated behavior, and predictable responses. The moment you disrupt that rhythm, you take control. When you refuse to be read, you create caution. People act more carefully because they don't know where they stand. They reveal themselves while trying to predict you, and that information becomes your advantage. This principle is not about chaos. It's about intentional variation. It's about keeping your behavior flexible, your reactions measured, and your presence strategically unpredictable. When you do this, you stop being a target. You start controlling the narrative. Drop this affirmation in the comments: I am unpredictable. Remember, predictability is weakness. Strategic unpredictability is power. The more carefully you vary your behavior, the harder it becomes for manipulators to map you, and the stronger your position becomes. Walking away creates fear. One of the most powerful tools you have is knowing when to step back. Manipulators rely on your participation. Every time you react, argue, or explain, you give them relevance. Walking away removes the stage. Suddenly, their tactics lose purpose. Disengagement signals autonomy. It shows that outcomes don't depend on your attention. It preserves your energy and forces the other side to recalibrate. Dirty players fear indifference because it denies them control. When you refuse to play, they are left uncertain, cautious, and exposed. Walking away doesn't mean giving up, it means reclaiming leverage. Drop this affirmation: I walk with purpose and pause with power. The ultimate Machiavellian truth: peace is temporary, position is permanent. Those who chase harmony get trapped in endless cycles of conflict. Those who focus on placement rise above it. Manipulators operate where access is easy. Remove your availability and their influence fades. True power isn't about domination, it's about untouchability. Control your reactions, manage your attention, and protect your boundaries. When you master yourself, the world adjusts naturally. You don't need to fight every battle. The environment shifts in your favor. Drop this affirmation: I am untouchable. My position is my power. If they play dirty, don't mirror them. Don't react to their chaos. Outsmart them by clarity, patience, and unreadability. Power doesn't shout, it adjusts environments and lets others reveal themselves. Like this video if it sharpened your awareness. Share it with someone tired of being exploited. Subscribe because the next deep dive into strategy and control goes even further. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me which principle hit hardest. Remember, you don't win by playing dirty. You win by being untouchable. Stay sharp, stay aware. Never play a game you don't understand.